The Zarnaxian Empire's grand observation ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in waves of iridescent color. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the blue-green world that had caught the Empire's attention. His species had ruled the known galaxy for 10,000 years, their mastery of quantum mechanics and dark energy making them virtually unstoppable. Yet here, in this unremarkable system, their sensors had detected something unusual. Primitive radio waves carrying the voices of a young civilization. Initial analysis, Science Director Vexthor commanded, his secondary eyes narrowing as he focused on the main view screen. Science Director Miralan's tentacles danced across her console, bringing up detailed scans of Earth. Fascinating primitives, Supreme Commander. They've barely managed to reach their own moon, still rely on chemical rockets, and their planet's atmosphere is thick with industrial pollutants. Yet, she paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. Continue, Vexthor ordered, sensing her hesitation. They're advancing at an unprecedented rate. Their technological progress in the last century alone exceeds that of most species over a millennium. They're inefficient, chaotic, but their drive to innovate is remarkable. Vexthor dismissed her concerns with a wave of his primary hand. The Empire had encountered thousands of species, and all had fallen before their might. These humans would be no different. Prepare the standard first contact package. Let's see how they respond to a demonstration of true power. The demonstration came in the form of a single Zarnaxian warship appearing over their largest city. It was meant to shock and awe, to show humans their place in the cosmic hierarchy. Instead, it revealed the Empire's first critical miscalculation. Within hours of the warship's appearance, Earth's military forces had mobilized with surprising efficiency. But it wasn't their military response that caught the Zarnaxians off guard. It was the civilian reaction. Instead of panic, there was adaptation. Instead of surrender, there was analysis. The humans had been preparing for this moment for generations, not through formal military doctrine, but through something the Zarnaxians had never encountered. Science fiction. Countless stories, films, and games had explored first contact scenarios, alien invasions, and interstellar warfare. When reality matched fiction, humanity was psychologically prepared in a way no other species had ever been. The first sign that something was wrong came when human civilian satellites began maneuvering in ways that shouldn't have been possible with their primitive technology. The Zarnaxian warship's sensors registered these movements too late, discovering that what appeared to be communication satellites were actually carrying experimental electromagnetic pulse weapons. Impossible. The warship's commander breathed as his ship's quantum shields flickered and failed, their carefully tuned resonance disrupted by the crude but effective human weapons. The humans had correctly guessed that any advanced civilization would rely on quantum-based technology, and they had prepared countermeasures based purely on theoretical physics. Vexthor watched in disbelief as the demonstration turned into a disaster. The warship, stripped of its defenses, was forced to retreat as waves of primitive but deadly nuclear-tipped missiles approached. The humans had shown no hesitation, no fear of using weapons that could contaminate their own atmosphere. They had chosen survival at any cost. "They're sending us a message," Miralan observed, her voice tinged with something Vexthor had never heard from a Zarnaxian before: respect. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in thousands of different languages. The message was simple: we are humanity. We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves. Choose wisely. Vexthor's pride demanded an immediate retaliatory strike, but his military training urged caution. In less than a day, these primitives had negated technology that had made the Empire invincible for millennia. They had done it not through superior technology, but through creative application of basic principles and a willingness to take risks that would have been unthinkable to most species. "Begin full strategic analysis," he ordered, his voice hard. "I want to know everything about these humans, their strengths, their weaknesses, their cultural development. No detail is too small. His gaze remained fixed on the blue-green world below. We may have awakened something we don't understand. As the observation ship retreated to a safer distance, Vexthor couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire's first contact with humanity had revealed not their strength, but their own fatal weakness, the inability to recognize that true power came not from technological superiority, but from the capacity to adapt, innovate, and overcome. The humans had passed their first test, but in doing so, they had inadvertently initiated a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. The Empire's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's current capabilities. It was failing to understand their potential for growth. And that mistake was about to cost them everything. The Zarnaxian War Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed yet another fleet reduced to debris. Supreme Commander Vexthor's scales had taken on a pale hue, a sign of deep stress in his species. 3 months had passed since their disastrous first contact, and each attempt to subdue Earth had met with increasingly sophisticated resistance. They're learning at an exponential rate, Science Director Miralyn reported, her tentacles twisting nervously. Every engagement teaches them more about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. But it's not just their military response that concerns me. The display shifted to show thousands of human information networks, all buzzing with activity. What the Zarnaxians had initially dismissed as chaos was revealing itself to be something far more powerful: collective problem-solving on a planetary scale. They're crowdsourcing solutions, Miralyn continued. Their civilian population isn't cowering in fear. They're actively participating in the war effort. Scientists, engineers, even their entertainment creators are contributing ideas. They call it open-source warfare. A junior commander interrupted, his voice sharp with frustration. But they're still primitive. Their ships are crude, their weapons are basic. How are they defeating our best technology? Vexthor turned all 4 eyes toward the junior officer. Show them, he ordered Miralyn. The hologram changed to display a recent battle. A Zarnaxian dreadnought, pride of the Imperial fleet, approached Earth with its quantum shields at full power. As the massive ship entered medium range, hundreds of small objects appeared to malfunction around it. Simple satellites, space debris, and what appeared to be primitive human vessels. Watch carefully, Miralyn instructed. What you're seeing isn't a malfunction. The debris field suddenly came alive. Each piece revealed itself to be a disguised weapon platform, creating a 3-dimensional web of overlapping fields. The humans had observed that Zarnaxian quantum shields operated on precise harmonic frequencies. Rather than try to overpower them, they had created a resonance trap, using the shield's own energy against itself. The dreadnought's shields collapsed, but that wasn't the true genius of the human strategy. As the ship's secondary systems activated emergency protocols, they fell right into the second layer of the trap. The humans had anticipated the Zarnaxian emergency response algorithms and prepared a cascade of attacks specifically designed to exploit them. They turned our strength into a weakness, Vexthor explained. Our technology is advanced, but it's standardized. Predictable. The humans, they're embracing chaos as a tactical advantage. But the military losses were only part of the Empire's growing problem. Human culture was proving to be as potent a weapon as their improvised technology. Through captured communication channels, Earth's stories, music, and ideas were spreading through the Empire's subject worlds. Tales of human resistance, of small groups overcoming overwhelming odds, were inspiring others to question imperial rule. We've detected something troubling, Miralyn added, bringing up new data. The humans are making contact with our frontier worlds. They're not just fighting us. They're diplomats as well. Several systems are already showing signs of unrest. Vexthor had seen enough. We must change our approach. Prepare the World-Breaker fleet. We will end this quickly and decisively. As the council chamber emptied, Miralyn remained behind. Supreme Commander, there's something else you should know. We've been analyzing their information networks, trying to understand their strategic thinking. We found something disturbing. The display showed thousands of human entertainment programs, all depicting scenarios of alien invasion. They've been practicing this war in their minds for generations. Every possible scenario, every strategy we might employ, they've already imagined it, debated it, prepared for it. Their fiction writers have been their greatest military strategists, and they never knew it. How do you fight an enemy who has already fought you countless times in their imagination? Vex Thor wondered aloud. The answer came sooner than expected. As the World Breaker fleet assembled, human agents had already infiltrated its supply lines. Their weapons had been subtly sabotaged, their quantum cores modified. The humans hadn't needed spies. They had simply predicted where their enemy's pride would lead them and prepared accordingly. The first shots of the World Breaker fleet's grand assault never came. Instead, the massive array of ships found themselves trapped in a web of their own making, their advanced technology turned against them by subtle modifications that had been months in the planning. As Vex Thor watched his greatest fleet neutralized without firing a shot, he finally understood what made humans different. The Zarnaxians had evolved through careful, methodical advancement. Humans had evolved through crisis, through countless near extinctions that had forged them into survivors. They didn't just adapt to survive. They thrived on adversity. The Empire had expected to find savages with primitive technology. Instead, they had found warriors who turned imagination into reality, who transformed their greatest weaknesses into strengths. The spark of resistance they had ignited was spreading across the galaxy, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the Zarnaxian Empire faced an enemy they couldn't simply overpower. The war was about to enter a new phase, and the galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the center of the breakthrough lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing the impossible. Around her, a captured Zarnaxian quantum core pulsed with ethereal light, but it wasn't operating according to any alien design. The humans had done what the Empire had deemed unthinkable. They'd improved upon it. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she mused to her colleague, Dr. James Okonjo, who was fine-tuning the containment field. They thought their technology was perfect, developed over thousands of years of careful iteration. But they never thought to ask, what if? The quantum core represented humanity's greatest scientific leap forward. Instead of simply copying Zarnaxian technology, Earth's scientists had approached it with fresh eyes, questioning every assumption. Why did the aliens use crystalline matrices when organic conductors could be more efficient? Why stick to quantum harmonics when you could create controlled chaos states? Latest test results are in, James announced, his fingers dancing across holographic controls that merged human intuition with alien precision. Power output is 300% above original specifications, and stability is actually improving. We're not just using their tech anymore. We're rewriting the rules. But the quantum core was just the beginning. Across Earth, similar breakthroughs were happening daily. The need to survive had unleashed humanity's creative potential in ways that peacetime had never allowed. The threat of extinction had become a catalyst for unprecedented innovation. In orbit, the first human-designed quantum ships were taking shape. They looked nothing like the crystalline perfection of Zarnaxian vessels. These ships were organic, asymmetrical, almost alive. They incorporated principles from nature, the resilience of spider webs, the efficiency of plant cells, the adaptability of human neural networks. Supreme Commander Vex Thor received the intelligence reports with growing dread. "How is this possible?" he demanded, watching footage of the new human vessels. "They've had access to our technology for less than a year." Miralyn, who had become the Empire's foremost expert on human behavior, offered her analysis. "They're not just copying us, Supreme Commander. They're doing what they've always done, taking ideas from everywhere, combining them in ways we'd never consider. They've merged our quantum technology with their own biological sciences, their artificial intelligence, even their art." Their art. Vex Thor's scales rippled with confusion. Yes, They believe beauty and function aren't separate. Their ships aren't just weapons, they're expressions of human creativity. And that makes them unpredictable, dangerous. The implications became clear during the Battle of Alpha Centauri. A Zarnaxian battle group encountered what they thought was a small flotilla of human ships. But as they engaged, the human vessels did something unprecedented. They began to change. Like living organisms adapting to a threat, the ships reconfigured themselves mid-battle, their quantum cores pulsing with patterns that defied Imperial tactical computers. The battle was over in minutes. The Empire lost 30 ships without scoring a single kill. The humans had turned space combat into a form of improvised dance, their vessels moving with organic fluidity that made traditional targeting impossible. But it wasn't just military technology that was evolving. Human medicine had been revolutionized by their understanding of Zarnaxian biology. Their cities were being rebuilt using quantum engineering principles that the Empire had never imagined. Even their entertainment had evolved, with quantum-enhanced virtual reality, allowing humanity to share experiences and ideas at unprecedented levels. They're not just surviving anymore, Miralyn reported to the War Council. They're thriving. Every challenge we present is turned into an opportunity for growth. Our attacks aren't weakening them. They're making them stronger. The truth was becoming undeniable. The Empire had assumed that giving humans access to advanced technology would make them predictable, that they would follow the same development paths as other species. Instead, humanity had taken that technology and forged it into something new, something that reflected their unique perspective on the universe. In her lab, Dr. Chen made a final adjustment to the quantum core's configuration. The holographic displays erupted with new patterns, showing energy efficiency that defied Imperial physics. "You know what their real mistake was?" she asked James, watching the beautiful chaos of human innovation at work. "They thought technology was about following rules. We know it's about breaking them." As her words echoed through the lab, somewhere in deep space, the first wave of humanity's new quantum ships prepared to launch. They carried with them not just advanced weapons and shields, but something far more powerful, the human spirit of innovation, the drive to question everything, to imagine new possibilities. The Empire had wanted to suppress humanity's potential. Instead, they had become the catalyst for its greatest evolutionary leap. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but what they would become, and whether the galaxy was ready for what they would create next. Admiral Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, Earth's first quantum dreadnought, as it emerged from hyperspace above the occupied world of Kepler 186f. The ship's organic crystalline hull shifted like living metal, adapting to the local space-time conditions. But it wasn't the technology that made this moment historic, it was the mission. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for freedom. Not just their own, but that of countless other species. Status report on the Keplerian resistance, Maya commanded, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Imperial garrison below. Her XO, Commander David Chen, brought up the latest intelligence. "The underground movement is ready. They've been studying our tactics, Admiral. Apparently, they've even been sharing our old war movies. Independence Day is quite popular among the resistance fighters." Maya allowed herself a small smile. Human culture had become as powerful a weapon as their technology. While the Empire tried to maintain control through force, humanity had offered something more powerful, hope, wrapped in stories of successful rebellion against overwhelming odds. The liberation of Kepler 186 began not with a massive bombardment, but with a broadcast. On every frequency, in every local language, the humans shared their own story of resistance. But more importantly, they shared their innovations, their strategies, their ways of thinking. The Empire had always hoarded knowledge. Humanity gave it freely. "Interesting approach," commented Ketel, the Andromedan liaison officer. His species had joined the human cause after witnessing their successes. Most species would simply attack. "That's what they expect," Maya replied. "The Empire thinks in terms of overwhelming force. We think in terms of possibilities." The actual combat lasted less than 6 hours. The Imperial garrison found their quantum shields useless against weapons they'd never imagined. Human-designed phase disruptors that bypassed traditional defenses by operating on principles the Empire had never considered. But the real victory wasn't military. It was watching the local population rise up, using tools and techniques humanity had shared with them. As news of the liberation spread, something unprecedented happened. Other subjugated worlds began reaching out to Earth, not just for military aid, but for knowledge. How did humans think? How did they approach problems? How had they managed to take Imperial technology and transform it into something new? "We're receiving a transmission from the Centaurian Alliance," Commander Chen reported. "3 more systems have declared independence from the Empire. They're requesting human advisors, not just military, but scientists, artists, teachers." The Empire's response was predictable. They sent their largest fleet yet to crush the growing rebellion. But this time, they faced not just human ships, but a coalition of species, each contributing their own unique perspectives and abilities. The humans had done more than build a military alliance. They had created a cultural renaissance. In the Zarnaxian War Council, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched with growing horror as system after system slipped from Imperial control. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Even our most loyal subjects are turning against us." Miralyn, who had continued to study human behavior, offered her insight. "They're offering something we never did: the freedom to innovate, to question, to create. Our empire was built on control and conformity. They're building something entirely different." The turning point came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Imperial fleet arrived expecting to face human warships. Instead, they encountered an entirely new form of space combat. Human vessels fought alongside organic ships grown by the Kelperians, using tactics developed by the mathematical geniuses of the Andromedan species, coordinated by AI systems that merged the best of multiple civilizations' technologies. "Look at them," Catal observed as the battle unfolded. "Each species contributing its strengths, covering others' weaknesses. We're not just sharing technology. We're evolving together." The Empire had ruled through division, keeping its subject species isolated and dependent. Humanity had chosen a different path, creating a network of civilizations that grew stronger through cooperation and shared innovation. Each victory brought new allies, new ideas, new ways of thinking that even the humans hadn't imagined. Admiral Patul received the surrender of the Imperial fleet with characteristic humanity. Instead of imprisonment, she offered the Zarnaxian crews a choice: return to the Empire or stay and join in building something new. To her surprise, many chose to stay. "Why?" she asked one Zarnaxian officer who decided to defect. "Because for the first time in 10,000 years, someone showed us there was another way," the officer replied. "You humans didn't just beat us. You showed us how to be better." As the Prometheus prepared to jump to its next target, Maya reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had entered the galaxy as a primitive species fighting for survival. Now they were leading an alliance that was reshaping civilization itself. The Empire had tried to conquer Earth. Instead, they had unleashed something far more powerful: humanity's ability to inspire change, to share knowledge, to turn enemies into allies. The counteroffensive was more than a military campaign. It was the beginning of a galactic renaissance, with humanity as its unlikely catalyst. And it was far from over. The Imperial Palace on Zarnax Prime had stood for 10,000 years, its crystalline spires a testament to the Empire's power and permanence. Now, as Supreme Commander Vexthor stood in the Grand Audience Chamber, he watched the impossible unfold through the quantum viewing screens. The combined fleet of the human-led alliance had broken through the last defensive line, their ships moving with an organic grace that made traditional Imperial tactics useless. "How far we've fallen," he mused, his scales now permanently pale with stress. We who thought ourselves the pinnacle of evolution, brought low by a species that still wrote stories about flying faster than light when we first found them. Science Director Miralyn, who had remained his most trusted advisor through the long war, studied the tactical displays with all four eyes. The Alliance fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human quantum ships flying alongside Andromedan probability vessels, Hilperian organic cruisers, and even modified Imperial destroyers crewed by defectors. "You're wrong," she said softly. "We haven't been brought low. We've been shown how small we've become." The battle for Zarnax Prime wasn't fought the way the Empire expected. Instead of a devastating bombardment, the Alliance deployed what they called a culture bomb. Every communication channel, every quantum network, every entertainment system on the planet suddenly began broadcasting the stories of 1,000 worlds, their art, their music, their dreams of freedom. Admiral Maya Patel's voice echoed through the Imperial capital. "People of the Empire, we don't come to destroy you. We come to free you, not just from your rulers, but from the limitations they placed on your potential." In the streets below, the response was immediate. Citizens who had lived their entire lives under strict imperial control began to question, to imagine, to dream. The Empire had maintained power through technological superiority and rigid order. Humanity had learned that true power came from unleashing the creative potential in every being. They're broadcasting technical specifications, one of Vexthor's officers reported in disbelief. Scientific theories, engineering principles, art tutorials. They're giving away everything freely. "Of course they are," Miralyn responded. "That's what we never understood. They believe knowledge grows when it's shared. Power multiplies when it's given away." The end came not with a devastating final battle, but with a revolution of consciousness. Imperial citizens, inspired by humanity's example, began to transform their society from within. The rigid hierarchies that had maintained order for millennia dissolved in the face of something more powerful, the desire to create, to innovate, to connect. In orbit, aboard the HS Prometheus, Admiral Patel received an unexpected transmission. Supreme Commander Vexthor was requesting a personal audience. The meeting took place in the Imperial Palace's quantum garden, where reality itself seemed to flow like liquid crystal. Vexthor, his once proud bearing now tempered by humility, faced the human admiral who had helped reshape the galaxy. "I finally understand," he said, his translator capturing the complex harmonics of his native speech. "Our greatest mistake wasn't challenging humanity. It was forgetting how to be like you." "Like us?" Maya asked. "Curious, creative, willing to question everything, even our own certainties. We built an empire that lasted 10,000 years, but you've built something far more precious, a future that will never stop growing." The transition that followed became known as the Great Awakening. The empire didn't end. It evolved. Under the guidance of reformers like Miralyn, who had long studied human adaptability, Zarnaxian society began to rediscover its own capacity for innovation. The rigid crystalline architecture of their cities began to flow with new organic patterns, merging their ancient mastery of quantum engineering with fresh perspectives from 1,000 worlds. Humanity's role changed too. Rather than ruling the galaxy as the Empire had, they became catalysts for continuous growth and change. The Alliance transformed into the Galactic Collective, where each species contributed its unique gifts to a civilization that celebrated diversity and creativity. Years later, in the great University of Earth's new campus on Zarnax Prime, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a class that included humans, Zarnaxians, Andromedans, and a dozen other species. Above them, the quantum core she had once modified pulsed with patterns that would have been impossible under the old empire. "The universe is infinite," she told her students, "not just in space, but in possibilities. The greatest power isn't in controlling knowledge, but in sharing it. In asking questions nobody has thought to ask before. In daring to imagine something new." And in the quantum garden, where an empire had ended and a new age had begun, a simple plaque bore words that had become famous throughout the galaxy. The greatest mistake is believing in limits. The greatest victory is helping others break free of them. The stars above Zarnax Prime shone down on a civilization that had learned humanity's most powerful lesson, that true greatness lies not in conquering others, but in helping them discover their own potential. The Empire had sought to rule the galaxy. Humanity had shown it how to grow instead. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, new species were emerging, looking up at the stars and dreaming. When they finally reached out into the cosmos, they would find not an empire waiting to conquer them, but a collective ready to welcome them, to learn from them, to grow with them. The greatest adventure, as humanity had always known, was just beginning.